Hey there, I'm just doing some adjusting to my setup right now. Hopefully, you guys will be able to see me pretty well. Willow is making a cameo. She may stick around a little longer if she chooses to do so. For today's class, we're going to kind of take more of an in depth look at triangle pose. It can be a very interesting posture to work with because there are so many different variations that you can do. And depending on how tight your IT band is, your hips, you have to modify accordingly kind of what more you're trying to achieve in a triangle pose versus like, oh, I have to have my hand on the ground even though my chest is collapsing and my hips are closing off. So ways to help modify triangle pose to one, be more accessible, and two, to give you different options to see kind of how each one feels with your body. This is a posture and kind of a class that I would suggest having a block nearby. All my extra books are in my little bookshelf over here. So your Harry Potter book, Cook's Illustrated, a tall box, because you're not going to be like resting your weight on it. It's more just kind of like help guide your fingertips and help open up the posture. There's very little weight when you open up for a triangle pose. We'll do some additional movements, just general ones to get the body warm. So we will go through a Sun A. We'll probably hit Sun B as well. I haven't quite decided because I also just had lunch. So a lot of that movement may have some indigestion going on. So find your space, make your space whatever it needs to be. It's fine, Will. Daddy's on the phone. So make your space whatever it needs to be. I do suggest at least having a mat with the space around you. Unless I'm outside, I tend to just stick on the carpet. I don't feel the need to bring my mat out just for every occasion. Now, allow yourself to settle. Now that you got yourself situated, get a comfortable seat. You can go back against the wall. As you see, I have my little half wall behind me, or you can go back against a table or a couch if that is something just kind of help give you a little more support today. Or you can grab a block, put that block up underneath your hips to help elevate your hips a little, especially if you're a little tight through there today. Whatever works. And take your fidgets. We're going to take a few moments just to get any additional fidgets out. Meaning, maybe do some neck twists, wiggle the shoulders, maybe crisscross your legs a couple of times to see which one feels more comfortable. Because maybe having your right leg on top feels better today when yesterday, like maybe your left leg on top for a half lotus felt better. Whichever one works, do your little twisties, your little needs to settle. When you find some time, allow the shoulders to roll back and down your spine, chest getting big. Allow those hips to relax. Hip bones are supported here. Move that strap out of the way. Allow the hands to rest. You can rest your hands up, which if you kind of go into more of the traditional ideas of yoga, palms up is a receiving posture. So you're receiving energy, palms down is a way of protecting your energy. If that is something that you want to follow and kind of needed to know. I tend to just rest palms down because it's just more comfortable. Or I'll go hands in my lap. Up, down, whatever floats your boat. Knees in your lap, whatever helps you feel supported and a little relaxed because maybe this feels awkward, but this feels more natural. Breathing here, settling in, and starting to call to mind whatever intention you may have for today. And if your intention is, this is time, I'm just here to move, awesome. If your intention is, I'm going to focus on a word. Every time like I feel myself kind of losing into my to-do list for the day, I'm going to use this word to help bring me back. I like to use patience. You guys hear that frequently. Laughter. What I'm going to be working on today beyond patience is being a bit more present, which can be difficult to do for a lot of us, especially when we're in a household with maybe children or dogs or a significant other or a roommate where there's maybe a little bit more going on. it's easy to lose yourself into their conversations and not allow yourself that time and space that you need to settle. So I'm going to go with being present as my offering today. Just breathing here. Inhaling, feeling the chest and belly get big. Exhale, feel the shoulders relax down. You can physically move them down your spine or just allow them to sink. You want them relaxing down the spine away from your ears. Gaze can be forward. You can close your eyes or take that soft gaze. I'm going to move into child's pose to start today. So we're going to go knees together, child's pose. So my feet are together, knees together, folding forward. So I'm coming over my thighs here. Hands will reach out in front. You can allow your arms to hang heavy here or come to a side angle so you can see a little better. This is much more of a chill out child's pose. Allowing the head and neck to hang heavy. Not really doing a whole lot with my hands besides just resting them on the ground. If I need a more active child's pose, press through the base of your knuckles and push the hips back towards your heels so your arms can extend out, getting a nice big stretch in those shoulders. Neck relaxes down so gaze can be towards the floor. In that child's pose, we're going to keep the toes together to bump the knees out so hands can walk in slightly. We're going for that little bit more of a wide leg one. This is just a way to kind of feel out each posture to see how each one feels at the start of class. Because these are poses we're going to hit at the end of the session. Three, four more breaths. Come into tabletop. So knees are going to come up underneath those hip sockets. Wrists under elbows, under shoulders. Fingertips are pointing forward here and move through cat and cow. So find your neutral spine. So butt's not sagging up, belly's not sagging down, butt's not pointing up. We're in that neutral spine first. Then we'll move into cow, allowing the abs to point down. Gaze come up. Nice abdominal stretch here. On your exhale, push the ground away from you. And move through cat and cow here. Inhaling, going through cow, opening up that chest, exhaling, pressing through the floor, maybe coming onto your fingertips, curling that spine in. Start allowing your body to make any additional moves. So if you need to get a nice little side body stretch, maybe your lats are sore, push your hips and shoulders in one direction, rib cage in the opposite. Like making a big old C with your spine. Maybe if your wrists are tight, some little wrist circles here. Taking a few times in each direction. And if you hit that spot that kind of feels sticky, hang out for a half breath and move through it. Throwing some shoulder circles, so allowing that chest to drop down, scoop up. You can allow those circles to move into rib cage, so allowing, as I kick my dog in my face and she does not care, allowing the rib cage to make some circles here. Even going into those hip circles, so allowing the hips to drop to the side, scoop up the front, push back towards the heels. If you heard that pop, that was my knee. It's fine, there was no pain. And we can take it in that opposite direction, allowing the hips to drop, scoop up the front, push back to the side. We're going to take a little bit of the pressure off the wrists. So we're going to be doing a lot of stuff to help continue with that warm up. We're going to move into puppy dog. So knees stay stuck underneath your hip sockets. Hands walk in front of you. Chest sinks down. So in your puppy dog pose, we're trying to get a big stretch in that upper back. You can even get a little bit into the chest, just depending on how tight you are. Ways to play with puppy dog. You can allow your weight to just pull you down to the ground and hang out here in a much more like chilled position. As you need a little more, same thing with that child's pose. Think about pressing through your knuckles and pushing your chest back towards your thighs. Three to four more breaths here. There you go. Walk your hands to the right, push your rib cage to the left. We're going for a side body stretch here. So boom, boom. And we'll walk into that opposite direction. Boom, switching sides. If any particular posture is really helping you like open up and feels really good, you can always hang out there a little longer. We're going to come into that tabletop posture. We're going to go for the legs. Because from what I've heard with a couple of the athletes I've spoken with, we got some tight hips from all the running that we've been doing, some tight calves. So with each class, I'm going to hit stuff that will help. So my left foot is coming behind me. My toes are on the ground. I'm trying to press my pinky toe into the carpet in my scenario. Squaring up my hips and pushing back to get a calf stretch. You don't want to think about letting that knee drop. We want a nice straight and tight line. So my quad is squeezing here. I'm getting nice little activation. I'm going to take a little pit stop to pet my dog while I'm stretching. We're going to go for that inner thigh stretch. So allowing that left foot to come out to the side. So we're making a straight line from that hip. Rotate the whole foot down. Square up those hips. It's going to be a lot of inner thigh going on. As you need a deeper stretch, push those hips back towards your heels as much as you need to. You can come down to your forearms if that feels good. We're going to be here 5 to 6 breaths. If you need more time, take more time here. Getting a nice little stretch in. And we're going to switch sides. So the left leg's going to come in, left knee plants, right foot slides back, and press through that right foot. Her eyes are closed. She is lightly snoring underneath my arm right now. And she brought me her nasty tennis ball. So again, we're thinking about pressing that pinky toe down to the mat, pressing that heel into the wall behind you, or couch behind you, or whichever works for you. Baby girl. And you go for that nice little side hip stretch. So allow that right foot to come off the hip. So we're going for a straight line from the hip. I think I was talking too much. She's leaving. Rotate that whole foot down, square up those hips. So we're really trying to pull that right hip down. That might give you enough sensation. As you need more, of course, push back. About 5 to 6 breaths here. Again, it's your practice. If you need to take more, take more. If you need to take less, you can always start to back out of the posture a little early. I also realized I did not bring the hair tie, so my hair is going to be all over the place right now. I'm going to bring that leg in. Tabletop. Use it as a place to kind of just recenter. Feel yourself out. If you got to give yourself a couple of wiggles, give yourself some wiggles. Curl those toes under. First down dog here. So knees bend, hips push back. Boom. Drive your heels down to the ground. But if your heels are driving down and you're still kind of like forward where your shoulders are more over your wrists, bend those knees. Focus more on getting a nice stretch versus trying to perfectly straighten your legs. Pedal out your feet here. So bend one knee, drive that opposite heel down to the ground. Gaze is going to come between your fingertips. We're going to step into a forward fold. So feet are going to step towards your hands. We're in a nice deep forward fold here. Coming from a side angle, think about bending those knees as much as you need to, just like you did in your down dog, to take pressure out of your low back. So you can let your arms hang heavy here, or make the Macarena arms. Remember those? I've also heard grab onto opposite elbows. Macarena is just a nice lazy way to do it. Neck's heavy, head's heavy. You can shake yes or no. Should be predominantly feeling in the hamstrings, maybe a little bit in your low back, but not a whole lot. Inhale for a halfway lift. So my knees are still somewhat soft here. Gaze is forward. I'm going to exhale, fold. Maybe taking it a scotch deeper this time. We're going to root to rise. So you're pressing through your feet. Walk your hands up your legs. Head comes up last. Take a nice big full body stretch up overhead. Shake it out here. So we're going to do a couple of standing things to help open us up a little further. I'm going to re-angle ever so slightly. Boop. Hopefully that'll allow you guys to see me better. So we're going to inhale, just a nice big reach up overhead, getting super tall. That right hand is going to grab onto that left wrist. Pull your shoulder blades down. We are keeping the pelvis tucked and the rib tucked as we tilt towards the side. So hands are going to the right, hips are going to the left. We're thinking about rotating that chest open here. So I don't want you going super deep and hung in, closing off that whole chest. I'd rather you be a little less deep and a little more open. Remembering to relax the shoulders, which can be hard because you're thinking about pulling. Relax and let gravity kind of pull you a little deeper, keeping the chest open. 2 more breaths. On your inhale, we're going to come up, shake those shoulders out, and take a little bit of a back bend. So when I say back bend, I'm talking about, oh, cool, I got a ceiling. Not, oh my God, I can see the wall behind me. So little baby back bend. Then we're going to come up, shake it out. We're going to switch the direction so that left hand is going to grab onto the right wrist. We're going to pull those shoulders down. Feet are planted here. We're going to send the hips in the opposite direction, allowing the chest to open up. Now, if you're trying to figure out where should I be looking, I like to use, I'm pointing to it like you guys can see what I'm talking about, where my ceiling and wall meet, just as a way to kind of direct my gaze. So if I'm looking down, I'm more likely to close off. If I'm looking up just slightly, it helps open up the chest. I'm gonna come up. Shake out those shoulders. We're gonna go for a little baby back bend again. So again, just a baby back bend to where, oh cool, very nice ceiling. It's very pretty. It's realtor beige. I love it. And we're gonna come back up. I shouldn't be able to see any of the artwork behind me. We're gonna flow through Sun A, which is our forward fold into a plank or chaturanga, up dog, cobra or up dog, back into down dog. We're going to sequence through that 3 times. So, we're going to inhale big, reach up overhead, getting nice and tall, make sure I'm not going to kick anything behind me. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold, plant those knees, step back, high plank, lower down to that chaturanga, pull through, cobra or up dog. Big difference here is cobra, my quads are on the ground, I'm more pressing up. Up dog, I'm pressing through the tops of my feet to lift my quads off the mat. Roll through, down dog. Shake it out here. Take a few breaths. Notice wherever you're holding tension. We're going to step to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Root to rise, head comes up last. Big full body stretch, hands through heart center. Very nice. These pants like to roll. Apologize for that. 2 more times. We're going to move through a little more quickly. I'm going to come to a side angle. First round, I'm going to show more of a cobra variation as I talk through it. Second variation, we're going to do much more of an up dog. So, inhale, lift. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. Exhale, plant. Chaturanga. Cobra. Quads are on the ground here. Elbows are cinched and closed. Push through. Down dog. Inhale, gaze comes between the fingertips. Coming back into that forward fold. Halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Root to rise, head comes up last. Whole body stretch. Heart center. Shake it out. 1 more time through. This is going to have the variation with the up dog. So, inhale, big stretch up. Exhale, fold. Halfway lift. Fold. Plant. Chaturanga. Up dog. So my quads are off the ground here and I'm pressing through the tops of my feet. Down dog. Gaze is going to come between the fingertips. You come into that forward fold. Halfway lift. Fold 1 more time, coming a little deeper if you can manage. come up, root to rise, head comes up last, nice big stretch. So we're gonna move into where I talk about triangle pose. This is where I'm gonna move my blocks, get them a little closer. I'm gonna have a nice little sequence to lead up to triangle. And then we're gonna have a sequence to lead gently out of triangle. We're gonna do both sides because you have to do both sides. As we move through triangle, we'll spend a little more time in that posture so I can talk about it. If you already know, hey, this is how good I feel, you can go through it a couple more times as I talk through this, meaning you can do the same sequence an extra time as I spend more focus on describing different ways to get into triangle, how to open yourself up, and what the intent is. To sequence into a triangle pose, we will move through a slight warrior sequence to get to that point, because it does help open up the hips a little more. I suggest having your block or bolster nearby, your block, book, bolster, what have you, close by for us to be able to use. We are going to play with a little bit of balance, so we will do a triangle to half moon transition. I'll talk through that just as an additional key point. So I'm going to keep two different blocks nearby as I discuss this sequence. So we are going to move through essentially a warrior series. Find yourself, plant yourself, feet can be together here or hips socket apart. So we're going directly underneath our hip sockets. We got bigger hips, we tend to go out a little further. We want sockets today. Shake it out. Chair pose. So hips will sink back. Hands can stay at your heart or hands can reach up overhead. We're going to breathe here. So looking from a front angle, I'm keeping my feet a little bit apart today. Just if I keep them apart, it forces me to focus more on keeping tension through my inner thigh. If my feet are together, I don't have to keep as much tension. Just what I wanted to work on. My shoulders are pulled down. Fingertips spin in, so my pinkies are forward. Going back to that side angle. I'm going to load the weight into my right leg. I'm going to slide my left foot back, coming into that more close to a heel to heel alignment. So my back foot is about 45 degrees open. So if you're on a mat, point your big toe to the corner of your mat. We're going to open up the hips. So I'm pivoting my hips open. Arms are going to open. Warrior one. We want a strong bend in that front leg. I want to be able to look down and see my big toe. If I can't see my big toe, my knee's tracking in. We want to push that knee out towards that midline of our foot. Hips are pulled under our body. We're not letting our butt tooch out behind us, putting a lot of strain on the low back. Pull the hips under, pull the rib cage down, getting nice and tall. Then allow the arms to settle, gazes forward. I like to go palms down. I've seen some people go palms up here. Personal preference. Gazes over your index and middle finger. Shoulders are still pulled down. We are breathing here. Notice my torso is very upright. I'm not leaning forward. We want to stay as upright as possible here. 2 more breaths. Your quads should be quite unhappy with you at this point. We're going to go side angle. So that forearm, your right forearm can come to your thigh. Left arm can reach up or towards the corner of where your ceiling and wall meet. You can also open up and run your forearm along the inside of your shin. You want to still think about pressing that leg out. We're going to reverse our warrior. So that left hand's going to slide down. I like to straighten my leg, shake it out before reaching up and above. Left hand can be on your thigh or wrap around your low back. When we come back into our warrior two, we're going to straighten that front leg. This is where triangle setup happens. So that block is helpful to go ahead and just grab, have it in that front hand. So we're going to push the hips back and reach forward. You're reaching, you're reaching, you're reaching. We're keeping those hips open. And then we're going to pivot, allowing that block to come down. So my block is on its highest setting. We're just going to talk through this. Your block can be on the inside of your foot or the outside, depending on what works and feels better for you. Bring it to the outside, allows you maybe to open up a little more. Inside keeps you a little tighter. I get a deeper stretch on my inner thigh going this way. You can also go medium setting, lowest setting, or ground. When we're talking through this, we still want to keep those hips open. We're not resting. It's more like just tenting the fingertips here. We're going to bend that front knee, grab that block, half moon. So, I can show you guys a little better this way. We bent that front leg. I got that block. I'm bringing the block about a foot or so to the outside of my pinky toe. There you go. You can use the block to bring the world closer to you. You can use it to help lower you down all the way. In your half moon, we're going to be as stacked. So hips are stacked, toes are flexed, shoulders are stacked. Boom, beautiful. You can come down here, or not, because I don't have the balance in that today. And when you're ready, we're just going to untwist, come into that forward fold. We're going to go child's pose, just so I can talk a little bit through what you experienced in your triangle. So you can take a child's pose, or just sit on your heels while I talk and grab a sip of water. Because again, talking while you do the pause, talking through a practice is much harder than I remember. So when we're going for that triangle pose, we want the hips to stack, we want the shoulders to stack. We want to think of rotating the chest open, getting super tall. There shouldn't be any pressure in your low back. It's a complaint I've heard before. So breaking it down, we straighten the legs, you push the hips back, and you reach forward. By going that route into your triangle, it helps keep a little bit of that pressure out of your low back. So hips and reaching, so you're thinking about lengthening the spine before you open up into that pivot, to open up the shoulders and the hips. Now the block, again, higher setting, just brings the world a little closer to you so you can focus more on opening up. As you are open, you can drop from the higher setting to the mid setting to the lowest setting. You can stack a couple of books on top of each other. If you don't have blocks, so you got 2 Harry Potter books, we'll go Deathly Hallows and Half-Blood Prince. You can stack them on top of each other, get roughly to that medium size. So you've just opened yourself up a lot there. Inside of your foot versus outside of your foot. Personal preference. I get a much deeper stretch by having my hand on the inside of my foot. So if I want to play with a little bit more core strength, because you can play with a lot of core strength in your triangle pose, I'll bring my hand to the outside and focus more on floating my fingertips and using my core and back strength to keep myself upright versus using that little bit of assistance. Just a way to make those adjustments. Hopefully you have grabbed a sip of water. You've caught your breath. I'm still trying to catch my breath because we still have that left side to go through for a sequence. So we want to get back into that forward standing, that forward facing mountain pose, just so we can start sequencing back into that left side. I'm going to make us do a chaturanga or a flow through. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. We'll go from child's pose to tabletop, into down dog. We're going to flow because I think we should flow, rolling into that high plank, lowering down, coming into that up dog, rolling over those toes, boom. We're going to bring our gaze between the fingers, walk our feet towards our hands, boom. Inhale for that halfway lift, and exhale, fold. Root to rise, head comes up last here. I'm going to do a lot of fidgeting so you can kind of see different angles. So again, chair pose. Feet can be together, or we can take our feet underneath hip sockets. Just depends on what you want to work on, how you're feeling. Hands can come to the heart, sink into that chair. Hips are back. We're not allowing the butt to poke out. Pulling that pelvis, keeping that core engaged. Pull that rib cage down. Nice and strong here. Few breaths. I'm going to start loading that weight into the left leg. I'm going to pivot so you can see me a little better. Right leg is going to slide back. We're going to spin that back foot down so we're making it to where our big toe can point towards the corner of your mat if you're on a mat. Whole foot's down. I'm pressing through the back part of my foot. I'm going to open up my hips. If your toes have to point out a little further, that's fine. That's just a nice little way to open up your hips. Cool. I'm pressing. I can still see my big toe, so I got a strong bend. My pelvis is pulled under. So what I'm referring to, you'll see like that big old butt pooch that'll happen. We want to pull the pelvis underneath. So boom, rib cage is pulled down, shoulders relax down, gaze is forward. We're going to breathe here. You want to think that you're pulling yourself apart in the room. So we're stretching and getting as long as possible here. Gaze is over that index and middle finger. Shoulders stay relaxed. I like to do a little shoulder shimmy every once in a while to remind myself, loose arms, loose arms. Light like a little birdie. We're going to go side angle. So that left forearm can come down, arm reaches up. Still thinking about opening up those hips. You can allow yourself to open up a little further if you want it. If you don't want it, don't do it. Reverse that worry, allowing that right hand. Give it a little wiggle if you need to. And resync. We're still thinking. Pull that pelvis, pull the rib cage. Now we're going to straighten, push the hips back. So we're still opening up those hips as much as you possibly can. This is where you tend to hear like a big click in a class. It's normally like someone's SI joint shifting. No pain. Okay, pain, back out. Reach, 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 reach. Getting long, getting long, getting long. Opening up. So on this side, I'm not using a block, but my fingertips are still not on the ground here. I'm not really using that resting posture. This is allowing me to work a little bit more core strength here. Boom. Load, drag, half moon. Hips are still stacked, shoulders are still stacked. Gaze can be forward or up. Flex the toes towards your face. It helps keep that top leg more active. Pivot out of it. Allow that right foot to make touchdown. Nice, deep, forward fold here. Heel to those feet apart. Boom. Sit the hips back. We're coming into a nice, deep yogic squat here. Just kind of help release everything out. If you are in a deep yogic squat and your heels are way up and you're like in this really awkward position, fold your mat up, or hell, you can even rest your heels on the block. Better to do it if they're the same type of consistency, or rest your bum on a block. You want your feet down, knees pointing out. Push those knees away. We're trying to help open up those hips a little more. Chest is upright. So coming for a side angle or a side profile, I'm not completely deloaded. Here, this is my straight chillin'. You guys have seen me coach a class doing this, like watching people. I can chill out here. Now, to make it more active, I'm just going to squeeze up ever so slightly. Now I'm a little more active in the posture. My chest is still upright. If you need to chill, I just brought that block underneath my hips. It's allowing me to open up my chest even further. Nice little technique here. We're going to allow our bum to make contact with the ground. Legs are going to come out in front of you. I'm going to do a little bit of light twisting to help finish off with the class today. Hopefully Side effect of having a dog and a lot of delivery trucks anymore. This is another place where that block is going to come in handy. If you've been in a class or seen one of the videos previously, hips are on a block. I'm going to pull that left foot behind me. We're going half reclined heroes pose, or you can go full reclined heroes. Half just means you're pulling one foot in. Whole means you're bringing both feet in, outside of your hips. I've also heard this called a straddle. Either one, we're just going to start to lean back. The main goal here is to have a nice big stretch in the quads. So by sitting on a block, you're taking the pressure out of your ankles. I've said this probably a lot, I fidget a lot, so I tend to shift in postures just so I can kind of help loosen up one side a little more. And lean back as far as you need to keep yourself somewhat comfortable. Willow. Back out ever so slightly. Boom. No. We're going to go legs out in front. So if you did one at a time, we're going to take a few moments, just catch up where you can. You just watch the video a little longer. I just like to do both at once when I'm teaching, so I don't have to spend as much time talking about it. We're going to go forward fold, so it's that big lift up. Push your butt bone. So if you got a wiggle, to feel your butt bone, press down into the mat, press the butt bone down into the mat. Wiggle it out, fold forward. Hands land wherever it's comfortable. So this might be the extent of your forward fold. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully we've stretched them out a little bit throughout the course of this practice so you can sink a little deeper. Your hands can be wherever it feels most comfortable. I like to come down to the bottom of my feet to help leverage my chest down a little more. Just going for that nice big hamstring stretch here. And come up. We're going to hit both butterfly and cobblers. I've given a lot of different variations, and I'm going to give one more variation to play with. That will have you utilizing your block, your book, or your bolster. So, coming into that butterfly, your heels are pulled in quite a bit more. Wiggle around, feel the butt bone press down, and you can fold forward here. This can be low back, inner thigh, upper thigh. Now, a way to play with it to get even deeper, like if you're somebody who can just like fold all the way down and feel absolutely nothing or feel minimal, try elevating your feet. What I mean by that, your feet, my ankles are essentially on the block right now. And I'm going to fold forward. This takes it a little bit more out of my low back for me and gets a lot more inner thigh here as I press forward. Maybe I should start playing with doing the splits with you guys. See if by the end of quarantine everybody can do a full front split. Might be fun to play with. Come up. Shake it out if you need to. You can bump the block a little further out, so you can use it again in that cobbler's pose. Cobbler's pose, we're just making much more of that diamond shape. Same wiggle, feel the butt bone press down, then fold forward. This should help introduce more sensation into the outer hip versus the inner hip. Come out. We're going to move in to that child's pose. Remember how I said we're going to do one at the beginning, one at the end? We're going to start with that knees together and allow ourselves to fold forward. Again, arms can be outstretched or planted. I'm going to continue to talk since we're going to do 2 more child's pose, and then we'll come into whatever resting posture you need. So with your child's pose, we're starting with those knees together, just as a way to help stretch out that low back. Here, just focusing on your breathing, coming back to whatever intention you set, whatever word. Maybe it was present or being present. And minus my dog barking me going, oh crap, she's going to go nuts, I'm going to have to go get her. Stayed pretty present in the moment. Like last week when I did not stay very patient and rolled out of a headstand. It happens. You want to come back to whatever intention you started with at the beginning of class. Notice your breathing. Notice how it's feeling. Notice what is opening up to you or what has opened up to you since the start of your practice. You are welcome to keep your knees together if your low back really needs a deeper stretch. If you need a little less of a stretch in the low back and need more in the hips, toes together, knees out towards the edges of the mat. Fold forward again. Again, thinking about how this posture feels different now. Towards the end of the practice, after we did all of that extra hip opening, maybe you're able to sink a little deeper. Maybe even if you're not able to sink deeper, there's not that level of stickiness that maybe started with class. You're feeling a little less stiff, a little more well-oiled, a little less Tin Manny. Allowing your breathing to continue to stay gentle. Giving yourself a full body scan if you need it. Noticing as you breathe how your back feels. As you breathe fully into your back, feeling the shoulders will open up and then relaxing down. Feeling your belly get big with your inhale, full belly breath, and on your exhale, feeling yourself sink and release a little bit more into gravity here. Maybe your shoulders start to relax, your hips are relaxing a little more. You need to adjust into any other resting posture here. Whatever feels more comfortable for you, do it. So I'm referring to if you want to lay on your back. If you want to end how you started with, maybe your back against a wall, a table just to give you some support, a block under your hips. And just focus on your breathing here. Get yourself situated and allow yourself to melt. And do a little bit of very light guided meditation, something I typically like to do in my physical practices. As you breathe, invite that feeling of white noise into your body. Your thoughts kind of getting a little fuzzy, like being in between radio stations. Maybe you pick up on a word or two, but otherwise kind of starts sounding like the ocean, just a little bit of that white noise going on. And allow that to travel from your mind, where your thoughts are just a little white noise, into your body. So feeling your edges become less defined. Where you end and the universe around you begins, starting to become even less defined. Each inhale, full and nourishing. Each exhale, deeply releasing and satisfying. Sighing if it feels good for you. I am the big exasperator sigher in my class. On your inhale, feel everything lift up, and on your exhale, feel everything relax. Allow yourself to be supported and cradled here. If you have to do any fidgets, to just kind of feel it out. Notice if you're feeling more open. Notice what's feeling a little easier to move now. And as you're ready to move, just go for a full body stretch. If you need a few more moments here, take a few more moments. Just big stretch on your back, sitting up, just whatever is feeling good. Kind of stretch it out like you're waking up from a good nap, or you're just waking up in general. And I'm going to close class how I would in my physical practices, by bringing my hands together, starting in my forehead for kind thoughts, my mouth for kind words, and my heart for good intentions. Thank you guys for letting me guide you. Hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about triangle pose today. If you have any suggestions or any poses that you'd really like to try, please feel free to send me a message. I'd be more than happy to go through them. Thanks.